Hello, welcome back. Today we are walking through a 15-minute practice routine. I know a lot of you struggle to find the time in your busy schedules to sit down and practice, and I want to show you that it is possible to accomplish some things in just 15 minutes. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like today. So we're going to start with a scale. Yes, we're going to start with scales. Not everybody likes the scales, but they are really useful. They help us with our coordination. They help us just get really comfortable at the piano. It also warms up our muscles and is something that we shouldn't skip over unless you're just really having a bad day. Then I could see, okay, no, today not scales. Okay, I can get in line with that. But in general, it is a good practice to get into, especially practicing them hands together. It's not something that pops up a lot in the piano repertoire, that we're playing scales in parallel motion, hands together, but it's really good for developing this sense of coordination because it's different fingerings, even though it's the same notes, even though the entire time the same direction, none of that changes. The fingerings are really complex and it's actually not simple to put that hands together. So if you just take 1 to 2 minutes out of your practice routine on a daily basis or 3 or 4 times a week, you'll really start to see some results on that front. Then from there, we're going to start an improvisation. We'll do that for 2 to 3 minutes. And that's important for your routine because it's just so liberating to be able to sit down at the piano and play something that doesn't require a lot of thinking. This is something that you can do even if you haven't been playing the piano very long, even if you're just in your first few weeks of playing the piano. This is an exercise that you can do and really enjoy doing. And it's also the type of thing that if you've been playing for a while, you can also really quickly develop your own variations and start to find your own voice at the piano beyond this framework of notes on a page that are set in front of us. You're learning to speak on your own through music. Especially when we're pressed for time, we should take the time to do this because this is just something that allows you to express yourself. There's no right, there's no wrong, it's just sitting down and playing. From there, I want you to choose a piece that you're working on at the moment and work through some sort of section in a way that you feel you've made progress in just 2 or 3 minutes, because you won't have a lot of time to carve out a big section of a piece if you only have 15 minutes a day. But you can start to problem solve. You can start to spotlight certain sections. So I am going to walk you through the left hand of Erik Satie's first Gymnopédie, and just not a lot of concentrated effort. It's more of a meditative sitting and finding this back and forth in the left hand pattern and making sure that that's really becoming more and more automatic, because that's such an essential part of that piece. If you're not working on this piece, or if you choose that you don't want to start that piece with me today, then find a piece in something that you're working on and just find one little section, and maybe 1 or 2 measures. It doesn't have to be more than that, but really concentrated effort for just a couple minutes. Then we'll learn a new piece together. I'm going to teach you Happy Birthday. I'm going to put the music up on the screen so that you can work through it with me, and I'll kind of show you my reading process and how I would approach the score if I were the one who's actually learning this piece, and how to approach things like that even when you're pressed for time. And so we actually will probably get through right hand, left hand, and hands together a time or 2 in the last few minutes that we have of that portion. If you're calculating along with me, we've come up to 10 minutes of practice time. I promise you a 15-minute practice routine. And what I want you to do is either at the beginning before you start with the scales, or at the end when we've finished all of the quote-unquote hard work, play something that you just love to play for 5 minutes. You can set a timer if you want. If you do it at the end and you don't want to set a timer, you have a timer for the 10 basic minutes, or you walk through the video with me, and then you just turn the video off and you start on your own. However you choose to go about this, it's great, but I want you to dedicate 5 minutes of piano playing to just something that you love. Whether you set the timer or not, just make sure that you have a moment for yourself to play something that you love at the piano. It can be the improvisation again. You don't even have to do something different that wasn't part of the routine. but just give yourself the opportunity to enjoy music making for 5 minutes in whatever capacity that may be. Hands together, that might have seemed really slow, but playing parallel scales hands together is actually incredibly difficult. There's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of brain power that goes into putting those together, and don't feel the need to race through it. Go nice and slow for as long as you need to. Test out a faster tempo whenever you feel like it, but don't feel pressured that it has to go really, really fast, because it's actually a really difficult coordination exercise. From there, let's go to an improvisation. And I like to do these little improvisations because I think it's just an opportunity for you to sit down at the piano, no sheet music, you have kind of a basic structure that you use as a basis, and then you're free to develop it however you want. This is your improvisation. I'm just giving you a basic structure to work with. So what I would recommend is taking this order of chords. So C major, C, E, G, and then sliding over to A minor, A, C, E, then over to F major, back up to G major. And basically what you can do is, I would recommend doing one hand and then copying whatever you do with one hand with the other hand. You can start with your left, you can start with your right. If you worked through the 14-day challenge, you're familiar with this improvisation already, and so it'll feel old hat to you. So let's just play around with it a little bit. I would start something like this. And you see, I tested something out. It didn't really go like I planned it would, but I kept going, I had fun, and that's the idea of this exercise. Next, I want you to take a chunk of a piece that's a little bit tricky for you. I'm going to work through just a tiny section of Eric Satie's first gymnopédie. If you've seen that tutorial, then maybe this is something that you're working on right now, and so this will be really helpful for you. And what I'm going to do is just practice this left-hand pattern back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a few minutes. Listening for different things, testing out different elements, and making sure that I have it really nice and secure. much faster. Now without pedal. Just making sure that I always find my way back to the right chords. So we're starting on G, and we hop over to what's basically a B minor chord, B, D, F sharp. Then we play D, and we jump back. The thumb remains on F sharp, but then we have 3 on C sharp, 5 on A. Back and forth, back and forth. Now I'm going to try to do it a few times without looking. And I didn't trust myself. That's just a good way to kind of test out these instincts of knowing exactly where everything is, even without looking. Of course you can look at your hand when you're playing the piece, but it's just nice to kind of develop this security net. And testing that out every now and then is a good way to make sure that you really have that solidified. Then from here, I want to work through something new. So I am going to walk you through Happy Birthday and just see how much of this we can cover in the last 3 minutes that we have here. So we're starting with our right hand thumb on G. I would recommend going through this hand separately for starters, unless you really want to test your sight reading skills and you want to try it once, hands together right away. So looking through my music, I see that we have some similar patterns, we have some similar rhythms. We have Happy Birthday to you, it jumps up a fourth, and we have Happy Birthday to you, it jumps up a fifth. And so then on the next time, we stretch that out a little bit. Now we have an octave jump. We skip back down, cross over with steps, slide over with the fourth finger to F. So besides the 1/4, the 1/5, and the 1 octave, the jumps are pretty straightforward. The left hand is starting with a fifth. The fifth finger slides down to stretch it out to a sixth. That repeats. And then we go back to our fifth. That repeats. Then our thumb slides over to stretch our interval out to a sixth. Go back to our fifth. Then here we have a little chord. We have from the top to the bottom, G remains the same, F, B, and then it slides into a C major chord, which we know well after our scale and our improvisation that we did earlier. And then let's try it hands together. So here, if you're not able to keep it really, really steady, what I want you to focus on is just finding exactly which notes line up together and make sure that those happen at the same time. If you don't manage to keep it in rhythm today, no big deal. You'll keep practicing it and it will keep improving. But we want to make sure that everything lines up together like it should. So let's play through it one more time, a little faster. That's what I call perfect timing. 2, 1, done. Oh, it didn't, now it's sounding. And that's it. In 15 minutes, you've covered so much ground. It may not feel like it was a lot. You might not feel like you covered that much ground in 15 minutes, but I promise you, if you commit to doing this on a regular basis, it doesn't have to be 7 days a week. If you do it 4, 5, or 6 days a week, but you stick to it consistently over several weeks, you're going to start noticing progress. And you'll start to isolate different sections for that third step that we took. And you'll learn different little things for the final 3 minutes that we did together. And then the 5 minutes that you have at the end of the session to just play something that you love, that time is probably getting stretched out too, because you've been learning new things, you've been adding new things to your repertoire, and you have more things that you're able to just sit down and play without thinking so much. Just really quickly, I also want to take an inventory of the things that we covered. So scales, that's not just sitting down and playing a boring pattern that you don't like. You can start to bring in dynamics, you can start to test out different articulations. But first and foremost, although it may not feel like it, you're doing an incredibly sophisticated technical exercise that's really advancing your coordination. If you get tired of the C major scale, move on to the G major scale, and the D major scale, and the A major scale, and just work your way around the circle of fifths. But it's coordination, it's music theory, it's rhythm, it's keeping this steady beat. There are so many things that we are actually improving when we're just playing a simple exercise like a scale. With the improvisation, you're learning to express yourself at the piano without any sort of strict structure that's being given to you. You don't have to read from the music, you don't have to do something exactly like someone has told you. I'm giving you a suggestion that you are free to develop and build on as much as you want, and musical expression is so valuable. In the little sections of pieces that you're going to be isolating, you're going to be making so much progress. It's small, it's concentrated, but it's concentrated. It's intentional effort, and I would encourage you to choose those sections before you sit down. If you know you only have 15 minutes and you only have 3 minutes to dedicate to that, and you haven't chosen before you sit down at the piano, then it's going to eat into your time a little bit. I would recommend choosing those before you sit at the piano, but you're developing your rhythm skills, you're developing your reading skills, memorization, technique, musicianship, a whole litany of things when you sit down to just do really concentrated practice, even if it's just a small section. And then if you're committing to learning something new for those 3 minutes every single day, so maybe you did Happy Birthday for several days in a row, and then maybe you'll choose something different that's a small piece but it's manageable to cover in 3 minutes, you're going to cover several pieces if you stick to this schedule consistently, as long as you're choosing things that are well within your reach technically and in terms of your reading skills and rhythm skills and so on. I promise you, if you stick to this routine, you're going to see so many results in the long run. Do go ahead and bookmark this video so that if you want to come back and work through the structure or play alongside me as many times as you want, then you have that easy access. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions that you would like to share with others on how they can tweak this routine to suit their own needs, please drop it in the comments below. And until next time, happy practicing.